out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating.
Subsection Module 1.19, Paragraph 1, 1979-80 revisited. We've reached the FA Cup fourth round. Dave Bowler. It's still chilly. It's the tail end of January, the last Saturday in January, and it's the fourth round of the Cup. Hopes are still high for a lot of teams, and Wigan Athletic are amongst them, Dave.
Fourth division, Wigan Athletic.
Fourth division. Only 18 months into their existence as a football league entity.
And here they are, they've got the chance of going to Goodison Park to take on the might of Everton, who, as we've seen so far this season, are not having a particularly great year. The bits that we've seen of them, they've not been a particularly strong side, have they?
No, they've not, which is surprising given the raft of talent that they do have at their disposal. Craig Johnston took them apart, and I think Liverpool just jotted his name down in for future reference, little black book for when playing for Middlesbrough at Goodison a few subsection modules ago. But this is Wigan Athletic. The fascinating thing about this, I'll run through the teams in a minute, but the fascinating thing about this, Dave, is that there's just so many Scousers on the pitch. It's there is at the start. There's more Scousers in the Wigan lineup than there is in the Everton lineup, but only just.
I suppose Wigan is the refuge of the ones who didn't quite make it at Liverpool and Everton, and then probably didn't even make it at Tranmere. So it was the way back in, wasn't it?
They did pick up a lot of players out of the reserves of both Liverpool and Everton, although only one of them ticks that box on this occasion. Derek Brownbill, who only made it in because of the condition of the pitch, Dave, according to Gerald Sinstad, our commentator. There was a three-way shout for two places up front: Derek Brownbill, Peter Houghton, and the emerging Tony Quinn. This is interesting. Well, they also still have a 17-year-old Mickey Quinn on the books, who's not involved in this game. He's about 3 months away from making his debut. They've got a rich seam of strikers as Ian McNeil at Wigan Athletic, and
that's obviously what sort of propelled him into the Football League. We've talked about this elsewhere, particularly in regard to Altrincham, the whole method of finding your way into the Football League and the Café Royal and the voting at the end of the season and stuff. And obviously Wigan had their moments in the FA Cup beforehand, and eventually became one of those teams that you couldn't ignore any longer, I suppose, the way that a couple of years earlier Hereford had done the same and whatnot. But now it's a much more satisfactory process, isn't it? The whole National League, and you win promotion. Whether there should be more teams getting into the league from the National League is another story. There was plenty of power in that Wigan team. I don't know who was funding them at the time, but obviously somebody had got a few quid.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself. Ken Bates was involved at one point, but whether he is the man at the helm at this point in the boardroom, I will have a quick check in a little bit. But yeah, running through the teams, we'll go with as Gerald Sinstad does. He goes with the visitors first in his kick-off match synopsis. It's John Brown in goal. It's David Fretwell, Joe Hinnigan, Tommy Gore, Ian Methan, Neil Davids, not Davids. It is Frank Corrigan, not Joe. Jeff Wright, Peter Houghton, Derek Brownbill, George Urquhart with Tony Quinn on the bench. The Scouserdon team, we've got Hinnigan, Gore, Corrigan, Houghton and Brownbill. Brownbill being ex of Liverpool. Did make first team appearance for Liverpool in the Shankly days. And I think as well, possibly played in the NSL. There was another, I think Tommy Gore also played in the NSL. Dallas Tornado rings a bell. There was a lot of former Liverpool reserve players that seemed to play for Dallas Tornado in the mid to late 70s. Tommy Gore, within this instance, was the player who scored the winning goal in the replay that took Wigan through to this against Chelsea, Dave. There's a disgruntled Gary Thacker trying to ignore the highlights of this game.
If only we could find Peter Barota's performance in that cup tie, I'm sure that'd be something to enjoy.
Absolutely. The Everton lineup, they've got a entire Scouse back line. Dave. This is impressive. All 4 defenders are Scousers, and Martin Hodge in goal, who would go on to greater repute at Sheffield Wednesday. Very unlucky not to make the England squad for the 1986 World Cup. Southport born, although he came to Everton from Plymouth. It's Martin Hodge, it's John Gidman, John Bailey, Billy Wright, Mick Lyons, Gary Stanley, Asa Harford, Peter Eastoe, Bob Latchford, Brian Kidd, Joe McBride and Trevor Ross on the bench. That Everton side, it's got bags of talent in it. They've been very consistent and done very well in the league under Gordon Lee across 77, 78, 79. We've mentioned this before. And Gordon Lee's last 2 seasons in terms of league form at Everton would be far more inconsistent. There will be a very marked drop-off. But in the FA Cup, Gerald Sinstad intimates to it. They've been. It's been Rochdale at home in the 3rd round that they've navigated away past another 4th division side, and then here they are at home to Wigan, more 4th division opposition on home territory. It's almost Sinstad is floating that possibility that it's Everton's name on the cup.
It's a promising start, isn't it, for Everton to get through. 2 4th division teams at home. That's a nice beginning. I mean, he talks quite a bit in the team lineups about Everton employing a winger at last in Joe McBride to feed Kidd and Latchford. And I mean, that's been an obvious thing. I think we've mentioned it once or twice when Everton have been on. But you've got these 2 great centre forwards in the middle who are great in the air, and nobody's putting any crosses in for them. So, so the arrival of Joe McBride might be a significant move.
I think so. And to be fair, he's the standout player for Everton in this game from the footage that we get to. We get about a quarter of an hour's worth of footage of this one. And every time he's on the ball, he looks dangerous, Dave.
He does, yeah. And to be fair to him, he's doing it on a pitch that's an absolute mess. I mean, it's cutting up really, really badly right from the beginning. And, to be a winger on that and belting down the flanks with the ball bobbling all over the place. He's doing really well, but no, he's quite keen to make the most of his chance right from the outset. To say he's the difference between the 2 teams is probably adding a few too many eggs to the pudding there, but I mean he's probably the star player of the day, and Latchford and Kidd in particular really feed off him.
Oh, they do. You mentioned the pitch there is absolutely fair game. It's clearly very, very choppy in areas. And but even by 1979-80 standards, that's not a bad pitch for late January, Dave. It's certainly playable by the standards of 1980. Yeah, we'd look at it now and say cabbage patch. But there'll be a lot worse out there in other games that we'll cover, I'm sure.
Oh, we've seen plenty that are much worse than this. We've got another one coming up in this 4th round, Liverpool at Forest, where the pitch is basically a beach. Effectively, there's not a blade of grass on it. So it's in decent enough nick, but to modern eyes, it's a shambles, isn't it? Really,
it is a shambles. A quick look at Ken Bates, and he becomes co-owner and co-chairman of Wigan in 1980. So whether that's, and before that he's had a bit of dealings with Oldham Athletic that had slipped under my radar. But he might be on the brink of his time at Springfield Park. It's the same lineup for Wigan that had won at Chelsea. As we mentioned, it's Brown Bill gets in ahead of Quinn, the Tony Quinn version, not the Mick Quinn version. The Everton defence has been unchanged for the last 6 games. Mark Higgins is out due to a fractured ankle, Dave. Again, another good player that Everton have got at their not at their disposal at the minute, but within the squad, limping around.
It was a powerful Everton team, wasn't it? I mean, there was such a lot of quality at that period at the time. The late 70s, early 80s. Lots of teams in and around sort of the top 6, 7 that could make a convincing title challenge, really. And that was what made it such a great time to be watching the football. But also was the opportunity for teams like Everton to suddenly drop off and be a bit inconsistent, because the standard of teams that they were playing week after week was proper quality, wasn't it? It was
real quality. Andy King is missing for this one. Peter Eastow's not a bad player to be able to bring in as his depth, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, real strength in depth. Again, we've talked lots of times about really in those days it was sort of 12, 13 players that made up your team, wasn't it? But there's probably 15, 16 players there at Everton who were all in with a chance of playing. So it's confusing why they didn't really go and do more over that period, really. But then you look at Liverpool, you look at Forest, and the strength that they had, and that's it. That's your answer. Ipswich, Villa.
It is. Timing is absolutely everything, and it just wasn't quite the case for Gordon Lee at Everton. Although he did, he took them to a League Cup final, 77, an FA Cup semi-final in 77. Would do so again this year. Another decent run to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup to come the following season. There was European qualification on a couple of seasons. It is kind of fine lines. Kevin Ratcliffe is another that's hovering on the periphery of the first team. No shortage of talent. Wigan are playing in all red, Dave. That will have been an unpopular sight to the Denzians of Goodison Park. Paul McParlin will have coughed out a chunk of his pie, I'm sure, as he emerged to see the pitch for this one.
How to win friends and influence people. Yeah. No, don't do that.
It is quite the sight. First half, Wigan are holding their own, Dave. There's no doubt about that. You've got Brown's out quick to head off Eastoe. We've got Hodge denying Brownbill. There's some fine work by Houghton down the left hand side as part of that move. But it is Everton that make the breakthrough on the half hour. So there's a degree of shadow boxing, but at the same time, I think Wigan have done enough to feel a little bit hard done by in conceding, really.
Yeah, I mean, Everton obviously have been the stronger side at home, first division team, all of that, but Wigan haven't really been discomforted particularly. I mean, the goalkeeper hasn't had to make a great save or anything like that at that stage, and then the goal's got a bit of good fortune about it, really. I mean, Gary Stanley on the right is putting a low cross in that Bob Latchford, as he made a career out of, comes to it at the near post. But this time he misses it completely. But there's Joe McBride, our hero for the day, coming in at the back post to finish it off and give Everton the lead. As you say, you'll feel a bit hard done by if you're Wigan at that point. But Everton probably been knocking on the door by that stage.
Yeah, they've been probing for openings. Yeah, good work from Gidman and Stanley down the right. That kind of. I think Brian Moore later on, we'll come to Brian Moore's influence in this towards the tail end. But Brian Moore mentions, I think he declares that Latchford dummies that ball at the front post, Dave. I'm sceptical over that, Dave. I see a bit of a swing and a miss.
Yeah, that's a definite air shot from Bob Latchford at the near post. I'm afraid there's no dummy in there. He's got no clue that anybody's coming in behind him for a start. So no. Brian's been very kind.
He has been very kind indeed. Very kind indeed. And Bob will take the assist on that one, without a shadow of a doubt. Peter Eastoe then comes close for Everton. There is a wobble. This is the classic. He's been hit on the chin. The knees have wobbled a little bit. He's staggered towards the ropes. Can he make it to the bell for half time? And Bob Latchford then whistles one just wide to show that there's this dummy slasher shot has not affected him too much, and that he is a class striker, which he always was.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's from there to the break. It's Everton who are really on top, and it's a good save from Brown from Eastoe's.
It is a great save
to tip it around the post, and they're hanging on a little bit to get to half time, but they get to half time at 1-0, which. There's still some encouragement for them there. They're still well in the game. There's still opportunities for them in the second half. In front of a crowd of 52,000, which generates record receipts.
Record receipts.
Would you believe? In the days when we were told about record receipts, which of course we're not anymore, £88,000 worth of record receipts at Goodison Park for the visit of Wigan. Those are the days, eh?
It is indeed. It's the biggest attendance at Goodison for, I think, 18 months. And there's 15,000 Wigan supporters in the ground. It would be interesting I'll have to see if I can find it. The attendances at Springfield Park either side of this game would be interesting to investigate. But 15,000 from Wigan for this one. Into the second half, there's an early chance for Wigan. I mean, it is very much if Everton get that second goal in that pressure that they apply after going 1-0 up. If they get that second goal just before the break, then this is the potential of Wigan just totally falling apart. But the fact that Wigan get in at 1-0, they regroup, and it's Wigan that kind of come out on the front foot at the beginning of the second half, Dave.
It's a nice passing move as well from back.
It is. It's a great move.
And it's just unfortunate the ball comes to the right, I think it is. And he doesn't really get enough on his shot at goal, and Mick Lyons comes across and clears it. But some good football, actually, that Wigan play right the way through the game. It's not, again, you kind of think the stereotypical thing of fourth division teams in those days is, well, we'll launch this 75 yards and see what happens. And it's not that at all. I mean, there's some really decent passing football from Wigan. They look a very useful side. Gordon Lee at the end of the game says that a credit to the fourth division and they could get promoted and stuff. And then he's not just being kind to them. I mean, they do play some good football across the course of the game. They do
indeed. And although promotion doesn't come in this particular season, it's not long on the horizon before they are climbing into the third division. Everton then do eventually. I think the legs probably tell in the end. It's quite telling that Everton get the second and third goals of a 3-0 victory in the last 20 minutes. And it's 2 goals within 4 minutes. The 71st minute, Latchford with a header from a McBride corner. Rose like a salmon day for this one.
Well, you say that. I mean, that one's it's the head of Bob, because, I mean, Brown is like, he jumps like Peter Shilton for that one.
He does for this. It's in the 6-yard box.
But there, I mean, he's actually lower when he jumps than he was when he was standing still. Yeah. It's a pretty dreadful effort from the goalkeeper. And there's Bob Latchford to take full advantage from 2 yards out. It's that one when Brown shows this game to his grandkids, he's erased that off the VHS that little bit.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I wrote down in my notes, Brown has to be disappointed? ? with tongue in cheek, knowing what the answer will be. We're still knocking the ball around with confidence. Between the 2 goals, there's only 4 minutes separating the second and third goals, but they're still knocking the ball around. In between those 2 goals, Gore puts one just wide from outside the penalty area. Wigan's best efforts at goal this one day.
It's a good shot as well, 25 yards out, and it just swerves across the face of Martin Hodgson just past the far post. If that one had gone in, it might have made for an interesting sort of last 10-15 minutes. But as you say, Everton at this point are just probably too strong for them. They're too powerful. They've got too much running in them. That extra bit of fitness, and that makes a difference. And as you say, a couple of minutes later, 3-0, game over.
It is, and it's the goal of the game. Brian Kidd has a very eventful final 15 minutes, Dave. He places this one in the top corner, laid on by McBride. So McBride's had a great game here. He scored the opening goal. He's had a pivotal role in the second and third goals. And it's a fine finish. It's one of those satisfying ones. It nestles right into the top corner, Dave.
Yeah, he sort of hits it on the swivel, Brian Kidd, as the ball comes in low, and it absolutely like a bullet into the roof of the net. It's a great finish from Brian Kidd, and at that point the game's over. Just manage the last sort of 10-15 minutes out. Go on, have your point in the players' room after the game, and everybody's happy. But no.
Wigan still keep on going at it, Dave. They're determined to come away from Goodison Park with something, whether that a goal or whatever. They don't quite get the goal, but they do get a red card for Everton involved here, and it's. There's a Brian Kidd. It's a wonderful, because the footage that we see, the 15 minutes, it comes from an Everton centric account, and it's been heavily edited, shall we say, Dave, to cut out anything to do with anything other than Wigan. Really, we do get to see these Wigan chances, and there aren't many Wigan chances, but and spraying the ball around in a very impressive mode. But there's certain bits that are edited out of this incident at the end of the game. All we hear is that the referees booked Kidd twice within a matter of seconds, and he's off. It takes a little bit of other footage that we unearth from. It's been clipped out of the big match. So when the big match has shown their game that weekend, they've thrown in Everton Wigan as their highlights, and we do get great, absolutely fantastic after-match interviews with the managers on this one, and we get Brian Moore investigates, Dave.
We do. Great work again from Brom, not using his lip-reading skills this time. But what we initially see is Brian Kidd just getting booked for dissent and then carrying on going and then getting himself sent off a few minutes later. But Brian Moore has pieced together all of the lead-up information to this. And Bob Latchford as a coming together with Davis in the in sort of around the centre circle. I mean, I don't know. It looks like they've run into one another a bit. Davies was not going to move, but he's allowed him to run into. And Bob Latchford is not at all happy with this. Mike Lyons is trying to tell everybody to calm down. We've won the game. Just let's get off the pitch. But Bob Latchford looks like literally in front of the referee. It could not be any more in front of the referee. Like he's going to chin the Wigan fella, but it ultimately decides against it. So that we move on, and then it carries on, and Everton get a corner, and Brian Kidd is still chuntering away at the referee before the corner start. Gets himself a booking for dissent. A corner comes over, and Brian Kidd is red card in the aftermath. But Brian Moore has drawn arrows on the screen so that we can see exactly what's going on. And to be fair, Brian Kidd has elbowed the Wigan fella in the face without any interest in where the ball's going whatsoever. I mean, now he'd be banned for about 3 minutes. But he just gets a second yellow card. He's eventually off. There's a Wigan player lying prone in the goal. As Brian Kidd's walking off, there's this blue blur that flashes across
with great speed. This is impressive.
With great speed. Is it a bird? Is it a player? No, it's John Bailey, and he's sprinting. I don't know, 50 yards to act as Boutros Ghali in the Wigan goalmouth without any great success. Although to be fair, nobody else gets sent off, so I suppose you could say that he's done well there. But Brian Kidd. Blessed are not the peacemakers, because that's a proper elbow from Brian Kidd.
That is a proper leading with the elbow type of thing, to say the least. Yeah, a work of art. It's an absolute joy to see this unfold at the end. It's just utter rancor. It's brilliant to watch, and that's pretty much the afters are great to watch, and John Bailey, who just flashes through. I'd never realised he had that turn of pace.
No, absolutely, that's the fastest he'd ever run in his entire career, I think. But it was literally it is a blue blur. You can just across the screen as you're watching Brian Kidd march up.
There is also clearly a lot of hairspray in action there, because that bountiful bouffant does not. It does not shapeshift. It does not lose its integrity of its shape as Bailey goes past it. What looked like Mach 3. Absolutely not. No, he's a man on a mission, and clearly it works because nobody else gets sent off. But the Wigan player is there. He's lying in the goal, literally in the goal with his head over, his hands over his head, and looks in agony, which you can quite understand when you've seen Brian Moore piecing together the CSI evidence at the end of the game. It's nowadays there's no way Brian Kidd surviving that. That's months of disgrace for Brian Kidd. But back then, part of the game. Carry on. It is one of those where you think on the first day Duncan Ferguson was an Everton player, he was shown this video and say this is the type of thing you need to live up to. A, look at the goal, and then B, look at the justice, Duncan. This is where it's at. This is where it's at. It was absolutely joyful to see. Loved watching this one. Loved watching this one. For our second game, for paragraph 1, and we've got quite a few paragraphs for the fourth round of the FA Cup, Dave. We've got quite a few. It's a 7-goal thriller at Vicarage Road. The peculiar situation of Watford being the giant that could be killed. It's the season. Is it a season earlier that they're in they win promotion from the third to the second the previous season. I think that's the year that they not Manchester United out of the FA Cup, 78, 79. So they are, obviously, the own track record of the FA Cup were just under a decade on them from knocking Bill Shankly's Liverpool out of the quarterfinals in 1970. Watford, well versed in being the David rather than the Goliath. But here, Graham Taylor's Watford are in the uncomfortable role of the Goliath against Harlow Town's David.
They are, yeah. It's the meteoric rise of Watford, and of course none of the big teams like playing because it's such a different sort of style of football at that stage. The way that they get the ball forward, but never particularly suited to playing non-league sides like this in the cup again on a lively pitch, shall we say? And Harlow give them a really good game in the first half, particularly.
They do. They really, really do. We've got about 90 seconds worth of footage on this one. We'll talk about this longer than the footage was, Dave, without a shadow of a doubt, comfortably. But it's action packed. They crowbar all 7 goals into a 90-second bite-sized piece there. Harlow take the lead. It's Prosser. There's a near post flick on from a corner. There's ambiguity over whether this one is over the goal line, Dave. I have a bit of sympathy for Steele in goal for Watford on this one.
Yeah, goal line technology would definitely be involved in this one. It looks to me like Steele has saved it, but the referee decides to give the goal to Harlow, which, to be fair, actually makes for a better game. So
it does.
Praise to the referee.
Maybe there was that in mind, knowing that John Motson was up in the commentary booth and that the cameras are rolling and match the day and all that. Here's my golden opportunity. All right, lads, that's a goal. And Watford's response to this, initially, it's clearly kind of like a negative response because half time arrives and it's 1-0. We don't see anything else of the first half, Dave, in this particular set of footage. It is simply just Harlow's opening goal. But they go into the interval and the second half, 6 goals crammed into the second half. That's an action-packed second half, Dave.
Graham Taylor has lit the blue touch paper, hasn't he? At half time, it's a different Watford in the second half, and the first goal is classic Watford of the year. I mean, Steve Sims launches it forward from the back, bounces awkwardly. Good header actually from Will Frostrom to
yes,
Post.
Very good.
It's a nice volley in from 10 yards out, and all of a sudden Watford are in complete control of the game. They
are that equaliser. I've jotted down and circled it. Put the ball in the mixer. This is high. This is high end Graham Taylor.
Absolutely.
Of the stereotype. This is a heavily stereotypical Graham Taylor goal. There was much more to Graham Taylor than the stereotype of Graham Taylor, but this plays up to that stereotype without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh yeah, this is the prime Wimbledon, Watford, long ball, launch it, see what happens kind of football. Which, to be fair, was incredibly successful. And we're digressing here, but I always felt when Graham Taylor became England manager, he thought, I can never do this ever again, because I can't do this with England. And if he mixed a bit of that in with England, who knows? It might have been a bit more. After all, that was what got him the job. As you say, there was a lot more to Graham Taylher than launch and run after it and sound the trumpets. But a bit of that mixed in with what he was trying to do. Then again, he had to play Colton Palmer for England. So what chance had he got?
Well, indeed. Maybe that's a module to be done at a later date for an alternative branch of this podcast.
Possibly.
But yeah, what was joyful about this goal as well, and it was that kind of like ball that's put into the mixer. It comes at the second attempt. The first attempt comes straight back, and is it Steve Sims that sends the ball? It's Steve Sims that sends the ball. There's a funny little kind of like hop that he does. As he looks up, he does a little kind of like double hop on his left foot, I think, on his left leg, I think it is. As he kind of like, I'm gonna this is going somewhere. This is going some distance, and it's. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that. But it's just such a kind of like again the aesthetics of it. It has absolutely everything.
It's probably an elaborate tactical signal to Will Frostrom to be ready for the way the ball's kind of, or possibly not. But to be fair, I mean, again, we talked about the stereotypical Taylor. It's a great header from
it's
Will
a
Frostrom.
beautiful,
really clever header onto Poskin. It's a good finish,
and it is a really good finish. It is one of the two best goals in the game, I think, without a shadow of a doubt. Because there's some ugly goals to come. There are some beautifully ugly goals to come. Patching, formerly of Arsenal, he makes it 2-1. There's a corner, there's a Blissett flick on, and there's Patching at the back post with a very dramatic diving header, Dave.
It's like he's having a heart attack or something. He just collapses onto the ball at the back post.
It's very generous of John Motson to describe it as a diving header. I think. But it's another joyous thing, and it's another kind of like I've seen the BBC camera van, and I'm going to be enjoying match of the day today. Patching scores again, 3-1. More glorious chaos from a corner, Dave, for this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is peak 1979, 1980. It's the ball comes in from the corner. It's half cleared. Everybody's swinging their leg at it. Nobody quite knows what it's doing. The great Ross Jenkins, gets onto it to push it into Patching, who sort of sweeps it in from from just inside the box. But it's absolute carnage in there. It's like footage from a war film, isn't it? Nobody quite knows what they're doing, but everybody's going for it full tilt. It's brilliant.
It is. If it could be slowed down and a bit of a bit of Blackadder goes forth feasibly about this. 4-1 before too long. Bolton. There's a free kick. It's low. The wall is poorly set up. This is Harlow kind of like we're done for here now, and this is a goal they shouldn't concede. There should be at least some kind of blocking effort for this.
They've been confused by Watford's highly original tactic of having two men right in front of the ball as Bolton comes to attack. The two men part like a set of curtains, and he just smashes it low to the side of the wall and boom, it's in. I mean, it's a bit of a shambles. The whole thing is. And at this point, you think, right, it's going to be 9-1 because they've just given up at this point. But to be fair to them, they mount a comeback. They
do mount a comeback, and that's part of the much beauty of this particular. This game, I can remember I had a video called, it was called 7 Goal Thrillers. The BBC put it out, late 80s, maybe early 90s. And I can remember this being on it and just being so enthralled with it. It was just, there was some aesthetically pleasing 4-3s on this video. But this just, it was the type of game that made Sunday morning park cloggers feel like that step from kind of playing for the Dog and Duck to playing in an FA Cup 4th round game between Watford and Harlow isn't that much of a step when it would be a chasm of step. Harlow Mackenzie gets both of Harlow's 2 comeback goals with a reassuring bandage around his head as well, Dave.
I was wondering while I was watching it, because he doesn't appear in any of the earlier footage, and then all of a sudden he's got this bandage around his head, and he's scoring 2 goals. I mean, is he like Samson? If Delilah takes the bandage off, does he become crap all of a sudden? I don't know. But from nowhere, he's almost turned the game, hasn't he? With a couple of good finishes.
He has a couple of good finishes. I mean, it's for the goal that makes it 4-2. It's Watford's turn for some suspect defending in a corner. Another set of chaos, but the third goal for Harlow. It's certainly Harlow's best goal, and it challenges the Watford equaliser for 1-1 when Poskett puts it away. Twig with a knockdown. Harlow put it into the mix of themselves, but again, like Rostrom with this fine header, Twig does so for Harlow, and Mackenzie thunders it in left-footed. It's a fine goal.
It is, yeah. It's a really clever header, as you say, from Twig, and then Mackenzie. He's making no mistake with that. It drills it in from the edge of the box. Steele's got no chance saving that, and 4-3. We don't see any more, unfortunately. So we don't know if Harlow do come close to an equaliser or what. But
we don't indeed.
It's classic cup tie stuff. That's classic 3rd and 4th round minnows and giants stuff, isn't it?
It is that. It is exactly the type of game that made the FA Cup what it was. In terms of just sheer chaos and that wonderful sense of hope that anything is possible. Dave, subsection 1.19 is up and running. This has been paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 will take us to the City Ground. So from the wiles, the beguiling wiles of Watford versus Harlow, we've got Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool playing for about the 27th time in January 1980 so far. We'll also have a nod towards Arsenal versus Brighton at Highbury. Looking forward to the highfalutin First Division sides pitting their wits, Dave.
It's always interesting in the cup, isn't it? Particularly those early rounds. You never want to play anybody in your division. You want something exotic, don't you? Whether it's a higher league team or a non-league team or whatever. But having watched it, it's actually a couple of decent games there to enjoy. There's some good football in these, and of course it's the days when the FA Cup was as important as the league. So it's the full team. They're both desperate for advancement in the competition. So something to look forward to there.
It is. I think that was what I always looked for in those early first, the 3rd and the 4th rounds of the FA Cup was the classic giant killing prospect. Teams playing each other from 4th division sides going up against 1st division sides. Any lingering non-league sides getting a decent draw and all that type of stuff. But also, if 2 heavyweights go together, in the 3rd or the 4th round, there's just a proper massive sense of occasion about it, and that sense of peril, really. That someone, one of the big guns, one of the the chief candidates to win the cup that season is going to see the hopes vanish very, very early in the competition.
Yeah, and everybody else was delighted because one of them had gone by that stage, which was good news for the rest.
It absolutely was. Terrifying if your team was drawn into that kind of scenario, but yeah, an absolute joy if two of your rivals were drawn together. All that leaves me to do is say thank you for listening, spread the word, subscribe on Substack, which you can do for free, and you will get these podcasts sent directly to your inbox through your email. Thank you and goodbye.